evening and welcome to Meticulous Moments. My name is Juanita Kapp. You can reach me at meticulousmacarons@gmail.com or find me on LinkedIn. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the globe, I've had the wonderful privilege to meet a wide array of fantastic individuals. These individuals have truly touched my life in so many positive ways. Amongst this group of people, there are authors, public speakers, life coaches, poets, leaders, and visionaries. They are the unsung heroes of our time. Therefore, I decided to start the Meticulous Moments movement out of a sense of my gratitude. It is my way of giving back to the community. Let us share and reshare their stories in an effort to build a better society. Good day, Meticulous Moments audience. Thank you so much for joining us for another wonderful session. And today we have the wonderful privilege of spending time with the vibrant Trevon Gross. He is such an amazing young man, such a great entrepreneur, and we had a lovely time discussing the topic of leadership, a little bit more about Trevon. Trevon is the Chief Executive Partner at Craft Your Dream Incorporated. He writes giving people information, accountability, and community so that they can live successful lives being fulfilled and free. In short, Trevon's mission is to make people's dreams come true. And if that's not servant leadership, I don't know what is. Enjoy this session with us. Follow him on social media, network with him, and sit back and relax. Good evening, Meticulous Moments audience. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another vibrant session about leadership. And this evening we have the wonderful privilege of spending time with the amazing Trevon Gross. How are you, Trevon?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. The honor is truly mine. I really appreciate this stage and mic to share my story and hopefully just be of value.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on this podcast. We are truly blessed. And I know you, we've had a virtual coffee together. We are fellow Connected Leader Academy members. But would you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Absolutely. So my name is Trevon Gross Jr. I am an entrepreneur at heart. Who I am personally, I operate on 3 core values, which is faith, integrity, and excellence. Those 3 core values have allowed me to be the leader that I am today, to have the success that I have today. In terms of what I do, I am the owner and founder of Craft Your Dream Inc., which is a coaching nonprofit where the mission is to fund dreams. And I do that by helping people find their how to their dreams. I'm a results coach. I truly enjoy it. I love it. So if there's anybody out there that feels stuck, frustrated, or they just want more in their life, I'm the person that you would talk to so that we can figure out what you need to do. I also am the owner of a media company where I basically help capture moments and experiences for media presence and impact. So I stay busy. On top of that, I also am a professional basketball player as well. So my time management skills, I would like to think are pretty good, but I feel like I could be better. But that's who I am and what I do in a nutshell.
My goodness, that is quite the portfolio. And I mean, that is true servant leadership because audience, Trevon helps people to realize their dreams, to make their dreams come true. Not only that, he's a professional basketball player and he's an entrepreneur. He has his own media company. I know he's very involved with, community as well. So yes, I guess you have to be very on point with your time management.
Yeah. It's tricky, but it's worth it, because the point is, especially with my coaching business, it really is about helping people. I'm someone that, just with my own life, I feel like it's always I always try to be the person I wish I had, So in every conversation I have, in every podcast episode of my own I put out, every just piece of content, whatever it is, I really just try to be helpful to people because there are so many people that have goals, but for whatever reason, they either get distracted or they don't believe in them. So I just try to serve as that bridge, as that resource, as that person that they can talk to reinstate that belief in what God's placed on their heart to do. So I enjoy it.
Wow, that's commendable. You
Thank
saw
you.
the gap, you saw the need, and you created something to fill it. That is just wonderful. Now, I had a live the other day. I have a short business talk every Monday morning with one of my colleagues, J.R. Spear, and we
Mhm.
talked about having a niche for your business because
Yeah.
in our business, we can't be everything to everybody all the time. So we have to
Mhm.
have a focus point. So would you please, as an entrepreneur, as a
Mhm.
coach, elaborate for us? What is your niche?
So my niche is for just simply it. My niche is based on people, not necessarily profession, but I am for the young adult who is trying to take on the world, right? That has these ambitions,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason is bound up by fear, is bound up by the unknown, and just feels
Mm.
stuck, not really knowing where to start to accomplish whatever their goals are. And
Yeah.
then my second audience that I cater to is even for the more experienced adult who has
Mm.
gone through life, who has, had ups, had downs, might have had some success and even has failures as well, almost reinstate that belief, as I mentioned before, just be reminded of what's possible for their life.
Mm.
So, a niche is super important for a business. So for me, my niche is basically anyone that feels stuck, anyone
Mm.
that is in a position in their life where they see point B, they can't necessarily identify where point A is. And where I
Yeah.
come in is let's figure out that path in between your point A to where you are today to get you to that point B. Because I've learned, and I'm certain you understand this as well, that there are principles that are God given. There are just laws in place that as long as you follow them, you'll get to wherever you'll get the result. It's sowing and reaping, seed time, harvest. There are plenty of different ways to put it, but there are
Yep.
principles in place. So, my niche is helping anybody that feels stuck in their process to wanting more for their life.
Mm. Amazing, absolutely amazing. God works with me in pictures when people speak to me or when I dream, or, sometimes I'll be praying and I'll see pictures unfold. And as you were speaking, I was seeing that you really go and you connect the dots for people because
Mhm.
sometimes they already have the answer within them, but they're not sure in what sequence something needs to happen. And that's where you come in, and that is vital because you help them to successfully, go on that path and you walk that road with them. So if
Yes.
they start as a young adult, you connect the dots for them, you give them direction, you show them which way to go, and then you kind of guide them through that journey. And I think we need more leaders like you in society because there's a lot of people with phenomenal ideas, but as you say, they get stuck in a rut or they are fearful because they don't know what the next step is. And sometimes they leave it all together, and we don't want that. We
Yeah.
want more and more entrepreneurs to come to the fore.
Yeah. And one thing I want to just piggyback off what you said is, a lot of us, there are a lot of people that have the answers within them. And so it's really up to us and just my role as a coach, but just each of us as individuals to figure out what is suppressing those answers. Because,
Mhm.
I say in my coaching all the time that we don't rise to the occasion. We only fall to our level of belief.
Oh,
So when you think
wow.
about just your level of belief, again, all of us have the answers. Most of the time you ask people, the person that wants to lose, let's say 20 pounds in 3 months, whatever their goal is physically, right? They know they should go to the gym. They know they should eat better. Like they know they have the answers. So it's a matter of, well, let's get honest about just what is your belief system around the gym? What is your belief system around eating better? What's your belief system around losing the 20 pounds? Like
Mm.
basically getting into the real intrinsic things that I think people are almost scared to ask themselves those real questions. And,
Mm.
so I really appreciate and thank you for, saying that you need more leaders like me, because again, I've had so many conversations with people that
Yeah.
have these amazing goals. They have this amazing vision of impact and purpose that they want to have in the world. But because of their life experience, their life story, low self-esteem, overthinking, just
Yes.
all of these different external things
Mm.
causes them to be stuck. And it breaks my heart. So it's like, I truly love and I enjoy just saying, listen, simplify it, make it,
Yes.
you just need one step at a time, right? In the same way Rome
Absolutely.
wasn't built in a day, neither is your dream. But yeah, I think there's just such a powerful point because people have the answers within them. It's just a matter of building up that courage, building up that belief. So that way, when you do reach that obstacle, it's not a matter of rising to an occasion. We're operating at a level of belief that this is possible, that I know what I need to do, that I can figure it out.
Absolutely phenomenal. Truer words have never been spoken. And, when people are leaders, they need that guidance and they need that support. Sometimes people think, no, they look at someone and they think, no, that's a strong leader. We won't impart some knowledge into their lives. It looks like it's going so well with them. But really, nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes. So I always say to people, never underestimate the value that you can add to other people. Doesn't matter if they are high level leaders or if they're just starting out. Everybody needs guidance. And no, there's a saying, no man is an island for a reason, because we have to work together. So we commend you on your leadership journey. And I would like to ask you, where did this leadership journey start? What was the day or what event transpired that made you really stop and focus and say, well, I'm born to be a leader?
So it honestly was something that I always knew was in me, but I didn't admit it to myself. I had so many limiting beliefs around my ability to be a leader just because, my father is a great leader. And I think like most people that, have really strong leadership figures and like they're heroes in their lives like that level of expectation, it's like good because you see a good model, but it's also intimidating at the same time because it's like, wait, I have to become that. That's the standard. Right. And so for me, it was really just a matter of, finally admitting it to myself. And I really started admitting it to myself, honestly, I would say when I was done with college. I saw bits and pieces while I was in college, just with my journey with basketball and just the things I was able to do while I was there. But it was almost like I was falling into the imposter syndrome while I was like kind of discovering it, right? Like I was like doing things, making great impact. Like I was leading people to Christ and helping people, in every way possible I could. But just in terms of how I viewed myself, I didn't really view myself as a leader because I'm just like, well, I'm not my dad. Like I'm not there yet.
Measure yourself to him. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it really clicked when I was done with college and I went about 2 seasons without basketball. So I went 2 seasons. I was going pro and, I didn't have a contract. So it was 2 years of, okay, I have to figure life out. Like there was 2 years where like everything in my life kind of smacked me in the face. And so, like most things, like when you hit rock bottom, the only direction to go is up. And so, during that period of time, I had some major life events happen, as well as I just got real with myself. Like, so I got into a major car accident that, really caused me to look at myself, in just a different way, maybe look at life in a completely different way, in terms of like really being honest with my strengths, really being honest with my weaknesses, my insecurities, my fears, and that's on the I guess, quote unquote, bad side of things, but even just on the positive side of things, like, okay, what do I really want? Like, what are my real goals? Like, what do I really believe is on my heart? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like kind of unearthing those answers, right? Kind of referring back to what we talked to earlier. So for me, the process was, it was a long one. It was a process of about maybe 4 or 5 years. But I would say very recently did I finally accept that, I'm a leader, that God put me here to be a leader. And again, and I want to be clear too, because I know someone may be listening and I don't believe that leaders are born. Like no one's just born a leader. But just through all of my life experiences, God put me in position to be a leader, and I was developed to even be in the position that I'm in. And so for me, once I kind of really admitted that to myself and I started really studying leadership and looked at, other really great leaders and just seeing different leadership styles and communication and, how a team should work and everything like that. I mean, I just kind of took it and ran with it at that point.
Amazing. I was thinking as you were speaking, Trevon, every authentic leader every authentic leader goes through what you went through. That's the point of being authentic. You have to do introspection constantly.
Yeah.
So really, I see through those 4 to 5 years that you were being shaped, that God was refining your skills. He was molding you into the leader and the life coach and the entrepreneur and the sportsman and the athlete that He wanted you to be. And you know, I just look up to you for the fact that you didn't give up. Because I mean, I'm sure the first season was, you know, you were like, okay, you're going to take a break. Maybe I'll be back next season. But when the second season came and there was no contract, I mean, that's when you started thinking a little bit, what's happening now? How was that?
Absolutely. It was, I describe it as it was definitely one of the hardest times of my life, but it was one of the greatest because it was in that time where I was able to really just lock down what my purpose was. You know, it was a time period where the nice cliche things I used to say to myself to keep myself positive, it was time to stand on those moments. You know, I had to have a real conversation with myself and with God, just like, all right, God, if I never play basketball again, I'll still serve you and I'll still be at peace and I'll be obedient to whatever it is. Right. And that sounds really simple. Right. And for anyone listening, like, it sounds really simple to just say that in relation to your goal, your dream. Right. But again, like for me, basketball was something that I put my all into. Still to this day, I put my all into it. Right. From a physical place, a mental place, spiritual place, I put everything into it. And so to really release it in that way, to where it's like, God, this is not ending the way I would have ever expected it to. Right. And I'm a pretty humble guy. I'd like to think so. So it's not like I had like this grandiose, you know, it's all me by myself type of thing. It was really just like, God, this is just something I enjoy to do. You've given me great talent and ability to do it. Like, I just want to do it at the highest level. And so, you know, coming to that realization and just that truth and that understanding of like, all right, God, if I never play basketball again, like, I'm going to be okay. Like, convincing myself of that, but even just understanding my purpose is bigger than basketball. My purpose is to really help people. And I was just like, I was just committed to, well, Lord, I'm going to serve you and I'm going to lean into, you know, the business that you had me create during that time, you know, because I had the business at that time. But again, my focus is basketball. But, you know, during that period, especially the second year where it's like to what you said, it's like, well, okay, now hold on. What's going on? You know, it was all right. Well, I'm gonna have to stand on it. I'm gonna have to stand on what I've been saying the last year and a half. Well, if I never play again, so be it. But at the end of the day, I still have a purpose I got to live. Even if I don't feel like it, I still got things to do, you know? But it was a great lesson for me. It was a great lesson for me because again, like that was just, there was a bunch of disappointments during that time period. And I mean, I didn't quit. And like, that's, I mean, I truly thank God, just even as I think back to it, because I knew there were plenty of times where I wanted to, like, transparently, there were plenty of times I wanted to. Yeah. But for me, like, and I tell my students this, like when I coach them, I understood what's at stake. I understood what's at stake when it came to just me becoming the person that God wanted me to be. I understood what's at stake when it came to me chasing my dream, my purpose, my passions. And so, yeah, so I mean, it just shifted a lot of mindsets for me. It shifted just a lot of perspective for me during that period of time.
Amazing. No, it comes through clearly. You're a man of faith. You love God. You follow God. And I know we discussed it. We discussed this, that you grew up in church. And I want to know, how has being a part of the faith community affected your leadership skills?
Well, it threw me in the fire early. I would say is like the best way I can describe it. It threw me in the fire early because, you know, both my parents are pastors. We have a church here in Jackson, New Jersey, Hope Cathedral. And so when you're a part of the first family that way, life is no longer, standards are raised. at that
Yeah.
point. So it was I can no longer be the, 8-year-old running around, getting in trouble, in school and all that different type of stuff. It was, oh, that's pastor's kid. Oh, that's, Trevon. So it launched me into a space where I was looked at, and not necessarily in a celebrity type of way, but for me mentally during that time, I almost had to start moving as a celebrity, because it's like, well, I have to be conscious of how I'm perceived. I have to be conscious of, because I'm representing something much bigger than just me. And I think that's honestly the essence of leadership, right? It's not about an individual person. It's about just the idea, the vision that you represent. And so, for me, being a part of the First Family and just church overall, it threw me in the fire of just putting me in position where it's like, you no longer represent just Trevon Gross and the Gross family. It's you represent Trevon Gross, the Gross family, Hope Cathedral, and you represent God. That like that, and that just came with responsibility. And I reference my dad because that's my guy and truly my hero. Just seeing how he navigates that space at a young age. It's like, okay, well, like it almost became to a point where like leadership was all I knew, being in the spotlight, being at the front lines of things, that's just all I knew. And so when it came time, as I matured, topics like accountability and basically getting the job done, they weren't foreign to me. They weren't scary topics. Now they were uncomfortable, like for most, but the idea of, taking accountability and different things like that, I was like, man, like I know I should, but how do, that's hard. Right. But, it wasn't anything new to me. So I honestly accredit a lot of my leadership ability and just knowledge to just my experience in being in faith, being in church and things of that nature, because, there's nothing like the responsibility of being on the front lines. There's nothing like it.
Absolutely true, Trevon. What you're saying is so on point. I don't think people realize, I'm going to say this to the audience, I don't think people realize that to be in the ministry, actually you pay a very high price when you go into the ministry, a personal price, because you kind of lose some of your freedom. You are always under, people are always focusing their attention on you. And on the good side, I realized that the ministry built my children's character as I was going through, the years of ministry. It built their characters very early on. But I do realize also that there was a pressure that was placed on them to be accountable, to grow up a little bit faster than other children, to be more responsible, to live with more integrity than others, because that is what is expected. But as you turned out, as a strong leader due to that, and it's actually a blessing. So my children also, they developed into strong leaders. So I agree with you. It's a pressure on us, but it's also something positive that helps us to develop faster, and it brings out the best in us. Now, you love basketball. Where did this love for basketball develop? Tell us more about that. We would love to know, because you're a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
We want to hear.
So the actual sport, I fell in love with the actual sport at a pretty early age, just because for me, it was like the perfect balance of running. It was the perfect balance of scoring. Like the pace of the game was perfect for me. Like I did baseball when I was young. It was too boring. It was too slow. I did soccer. I actually enjoyed soccer a little bit, but it was too much running. When I started playing basketball, it was just like perfect. It was just like that, just right, just amount of running, just amount enough of breaks. And I was just always taller, and I was athletic. And so it was just something that I found success in very early. And it was just a game I enjoyed. And I would say my love for it started there, but I would say it really solidified itself. I would say truly when I hit my first level of adversity when it came to my basketball career. which came at around maybe my senior year of high school, because that was where I really had a decision to either, continue my career or just stop, and that's kind of high school, going to college. Like, I had a decision of, okay, well, I have no scholarships. But here's this thing I really enjoy. And for me, I'm very competitive. So I know I can compete at a certain level. And for me, just making that decision to, go to UVA and know in my heart I'm going to be on this team somewhere or another because I love the game. That's where just my love for basketball went bigger than the game itself, just because basketball for me just represents, just what's possible for me, because of the success and the discipline and the habits and the mental toughness and everything that is required for me to be at the level that I'm at now as a professional. But just, again, even if I stop playing, like I go through college, I have an amazing career, and I just say, okay, I'm done. I'm not even going to necessarily pursue pro. Just everything that I had experienced and learned during that period of time, it almost was just like a framework for me. So it's like a framework of, okay, if you put in the time, the results will come. It doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter what other people may say about you. It doesn't matter what you may even think sometimes. If you just do this, if you honor the process of things and you do it in excellence, you'll see the results. And that period of time for me was when, again, my love for basketball just deepened because it just represented so much more than just a game. And that's why I say, my 3 core values of faith, integrity, and excellence, it stemmed from my experience with basketball, and now it's bleeding into just all the other areas of my life, in business, in my relationships, in my family, in my finances, just every area possible. I have a clear understanding, and now it's still up to me to actually do it. Right. But I now understand it's not like some idealistic out there, not sure if it's going to work type of thing. Like, I'm very clear on, okay, if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this type of way at this certain time in this meticulous type of fashion, I'll get the results I need.
Absolutely.
So yeah, like that's kind of just where my love of basketball started. That's where it's at. I joke around all the time. Like, when I am done, I'm really going to be done just because I love the game that much. Like, I don't see myself being like that person that's trying to hold on and still be at the YMCA. Like, when I'm done, I think I'm really going to be done. Just because, I just honor and love the game that much, just for all that it's allowed me to do, by the grace of God. So,
Amen to that. Yes, basketball, I can see, has elevated you as a leader in all areas of your life. And, we talk about self-leadership in the corporate world as well. Self-leadership, the leadership of others, of the corporation, of stakeholders, but it really starts with leadership of self. And that's very important because that ciphers through, like you mentioned, to the other areas in our lives. Now, you went through a horrible accident. And that really impacted your life. And I would love for you to share what you shared with me. What happened? How did the accident happen? What happened after the accident? And how do you experience that changed you?
So I'll start just with the time period of life where I was at. So this is 2019. I just got done with college basketball at Monmouth University. It was a very rough year for me. I was at rock bottom, depressed. Just life was just not going my way at all. And basketball at that point was an idol for me. Basketball was like the only that was like the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, at every other area, I was just like, whatever. So during that time, I was working out. I had a job as a trainer. So I was working out at the gym late, maybe about 9:30 at night. I was on my way home from working out. I'm going through a green light. This young lady, she runs her red and hits the front of my car. We basically hit bump, and then my car keeps going and basically flips over. It hits a curb and flips over. So I'm hanging upside down. And again, this was a time, and I kind of want to. kind of breeze over like what happened with the accident, because what was really important was just the time period in terms of like what I was dealing with. I was during a time of my life where I was worried about how my basketball career was going to pan out. I was worried about, how was I actually going to make money? If basketball didn't work. Like I'm dealing with the transition into adulthood. And it wasn't, the traditional, oh, I just have a corporate job waiting on me, or, oh, I'm just in a great position in basketball where just agents are lining up to work with me and teams are lining. I didn't have that. Like I felt completely alone. I was stressed out every single day, just worried, just in a place of being stuck, miserable, just terrible place, lowest of the lowest of places. And so this accident happens. Now, when the accident happens and I'm hanging upside down, my first thought is move your limbs. My first thought is wiggle your toes, move your feet. Like just because for me, one of my biggest fears is losing the ability to use my body, just because with basketball, all of the work, detail, time, energy, everything that I've used with my body, I don't want to, like, I couldn't mentally wrap my brain around not being able to use my body just because, I know every piece of me. So that was like my first thought. So, okay, toes are wiggling, move my legs, okay, cool. Thankfully, I didn't have any like major injuries. Like I had a little bit of shoulder separation and I sprained my wrist. Thank God that was. But bigger than that, what I really started to realize, particularly after, like when I'm in the hospital and everything like that, I realized how quick it can go, like how quickly life can just end. Like I had plans the next day. I had plans that weekend. And just like that, those plans don't matter. Just like that, everything that I was worrying about, everything, man, I'm even getting emotional as I share it. Yeah. Like everything in my life at that point, it didn't matter because it could have been over right then and there on that corner. And so, and then you just go down the rabbit hole of like, okay, if I did go, who would care? If I did go, how would people find out? Just barrage of thoughts of just like, man, like if that was really it, like what would people have thought of me? And for me, I'm someone that, I appreciate when people show their love, but like I like genuine love. And so for me, when someone passes, I appreciate it, but I want to know who's really affected by me going like a week after I'm put in the ground. Like whose life, who has to go to therapy because I'm gone? Yeah. Like, because to me, that is the sign of real impact. Like who's really like, I cannot believe Trevon is gone. And it just, it shifted my mindset just towards who I was really staying in contact with. It challenged me to be better because I knew that there were areas and there are talents and gifts within me that it was, there was no more waiting around. Yeah. There was no more feeling sorry for myself. There was no more worrying about the things I was worrying about because I knew, again, as just even going back to what we said earlier, and I think that's why what we were talking about earlier in terms of how people have the answers within them. It's such a powerful point. I knew what was in me. I just didn't want to admit it to myself. And I was trying to figure out life without using the gifts that God has given me. Yeah. And that was a moment where you realize the things that I was worrying about really don't matter. And I started shifting my mind towards things that really do. That's where I started getting way more intentional with the relationships I had. That's where I started telling people, I love you. Like, and like even some of my friends, like it threw them off at first, and I downplayed the accident to them just because I didn't want to scare them or anything like that. But, but during that time, even to this day, I end most of my conversations, hey, love you, because I understand it can it can go just like that. And I don't want anyone that I'm really close to that really knows my life to even wonder where I stood with them. And so that accident shifted my mindset, but really helped me understand what really matters with life. I was like, the easiest example is money. I was so worried and stressed out about money. I was so stressed out. I had such a scarcity mindset when it came to my finances. And that accident allowed me to understand that money is only a tool. Money is only an indicator. Money is only an indication of value.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with my identity, has nothing to do with my ability. Well, it has a little bit to do with my ability in terms of how valuable you are. Yeah. But in terms of who I am is not defined by a dollar sign. There's so much money out there in the world, and it's just up to me to become valuable to people that are willing to give it to me.
Yes.
Right. And so like it sounds simple, but that little mental shift from that experience allowed me to no longer worry about money and start focusing on the relationships, start focusing on how can I just be of value, start focusing on how can I be way more intentional with the things that I'm doing, because, you know, that's what really matters. You know, and one of the things it makes me laugh sometimes. So I have a girlfriend, and I took her to my chiropractor, my sports chiropractor, and he hooked us up. And she was just amazed. She's just like, wow, like he really treated you really well. And I'm like, I just thank God, because every single time I go in there, like we really talk, like we really have a conversation. Like I go in there like, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? You know, what's going on? What's on your mind? Like, that's just how I've learned to approach people. And it's resulted in me just having amazing relationships with people. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I'm even able to be on this platform with you. So yeah, just that whole accident, and I don't want to be long-winded, but that whole accident really just shifted my entire life, you know, and even currently, like the things that, like when I find myself worrying about certain things, I always have to go back to that. Like it's like I have to go back to that and think, okay, does that really matter? Like, yes, it's something that needs to get handled, but like, does that really matter? Yeah. And once I put it under that filter, it's like, okay, all right. So at that point, let's take the emotions out of it. Let's get down to the facts. Let's boom, 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 and do what has to get done. So yeah, again, scariest moment of my life, scariest by far, but it's an experience that I'm thankful for, because I don't know if I'm here if it wasn't for that experience. I don't know.
It's just amazing to see how it adjusted your perspective. And after that, how it actually, something negative like that enriched your life, gave you a better quality of life. And on top of that, you still became successful. Yeah. So that's really important for the audience to see, is that sometimes it's the little things in life, you know, just that shift, just that lens that you mentioned to change. Now, mentally, that must have been horrifying. How did you stay mentally strong during that time? I mean, it must have been, like you said, it was the greatest shock ever. How did you self-talk yourself into success?
I got clear on my purpose, and I gave myself a mission. That's how I stayed mentally strong. You know, it was, again, terrifying, like hanging upside down, you know, it's terrifying. But again, because it birthed in me something new, I realized that I could not allow anything to hold me back from what God had for me. Yeah. That I could not allow myself to get in the way, because again, I realized how in the way of myself I was. You know, like rather than me focusing on just what wasn't going right, I needed to shift towards, okay, here's what I can do. Like, no, my life doesn't look the way I want it to right now, but here's what I can do to maybe fix it. Like, I started living my life on a lot of maybes, like, but on a positive side of like, maybe if I do this, this could change things. And from there, you know, I just started going into, I have the power of one mindset is what I teach in terms of just focusing on one day. For me, it was one day at a time. So that's actually really to answer your question. I truly just installed a power of one mindset for myself, and not the Ed Milet power of one, because his is the power of one more. So I don't want people in the audience, like, this is my own that I came up with that I teach. But in terms of just a power of one mindset of, listen, I don't need to worry about tomorrow. I don't need to worry about my past. I don't even need to worry about what's about to happen in 5 hours from now.
Mhm.
I only need to worry about right now and whatever that one thing is that I'm doing right now for this one dream, this one goal, this one purpose for my life. That's it.
Yes.
If I focus on that and I do it in excellence and I do it to the best of my ability, the rest will take care of itself. And so that's honestly how I stay strong. And I mean, truthfully, like I had like, even after cause my dad is, after he like forced me to drive like almost like 2 days after. And I didn't want to, like, be clear. I did not want to. I was like, I'm not getting behind the wheel for a good minute. I'm done. But he was like, and this is why it's important to have good people in your life and really have people that challenge you. He was like, no, get in the car and just go up to Wawa, go up to the store. Like, simple. Yeah. But I had to face that because I knew he was right. Again, I knew he was right. I knew I should, but I just didn't want to. Yeah. But he said, no, get in the car and go drive to the store. So I did, and it was scary. And even truthfully, like as I went through lights, like my heart would like jump.
Yeah.
It would jump. Like if I saw cars coming, like my heart would jump. And that I had that for maybe about 6 months. 6 months, every single intersection, any drive. If I saw somebody coming, like my heart would jump. But again, I stayed focused on just my mission. I stayed focused on the purpose that I knew God had given me. And I understood that if I allowed my worries to envelop me again, if I allowed my fears to keep me stuck, that I would be doing a greater disservice, not only to myself, but to the people that I know God wants me to impact just with my story and with my presence. So for me, that's how I stayed mentally strong, where it was, if I couldn't keep myself mentally strong, I would think about who would I be robbing by not being mentally strong.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Now, after something like that, that is a huge shock to the system. And, there are fears that develop, there are fears that are involved, and you have to take a lot of self-care during that time. I love what your father did, kind of forcing you to drive again, because that helped you over that fear. It didn't put you in a dark place. It actually elevated you out of a possible dark place and a possible fear, entrapment of fear. Tell me, how important is it for leaders to take rest? How important is it, because as leaders, we are very ambitious. Leaders are ambitious people. Entrepreneurs are ambitious individuals. And we are driven by this passion to do something, whatever it is that we feel, makes us tick or is important to us. And sometimes we get to a place where we overwork ourselves because we have this sense that we have to achieve constantly. And I find that with a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of business people, it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's a good thing. But how important is it, just for the audience, maybe there's someone in the audience that does overwork that needs to hear this. How important is that rest?
It's vital. The mission doesn't get accomplished without rest. It doesn't, because, at the end of the day, back to how we said, right, as a leader, you represent something bigger than you. If you as an individual are running on E, then there's no way that you can transport people to the vision and goal of whatever it is that you're leading them to. Right. And that's something that I had to learn. So I am someone that I would say I'm about maybe 2 months removed from being like a workaholic. I'm about 2 months removed. I'm still working on me. God's still working on me. But, I just understood that, finally, and I have to still remind myself of this. So I think, better rather me come across as like, oh no, work-life balance is great over here. No, I'm working on it. But it's really essential, because again, you can't pour into people if you yourself are empty. Right. You can't, you have to be able to rest. And so for me, with all the things that I do, I really try to have a day where I don't do as much, like not necessarily a day of nothing, but I try to schedule in a day where, okay, it's at least a slower pace, at the very least, a slower pace type of day. But it's really essential, because, rest is where you're able to make sure you stay the leader that you are. Rest allows you to even become a better leader, because what happens is, right, it's the same dynamic when you hear about entrepreneurs where they're either working in their business or on their business, right? It's the same thing with leadership. If you spend so much time leading, well, then you're not spending any time working on your leadership.
Yeah. Getting edified yourself. Yeah.
You need to take that rest to make sure that you are still that leader that you need to be in order to transport whoever it is that you're leading to the vision, to the goal, to the mission, to get accomplished. So rest is vital. And it's a lesson I'm learning too. So, but
absolutely. I think we all are because society is so fast paced.
Yeah.
It's kind of like society is dictating the pace for us. And sometimes we have to say, wow, it's enough. I can feel my body is telling me I'm tired, or I can feel I need a bit of mental rest, go out for a hike or a jog or go train, because that is our body speaking to us. And it's important. And that was a very hard lesson for me to learn, but it's important, like you say, to rest. It's vital. It's important to listen to your body, know your body, know your mind, know yourself. Because like you said, if you are just always busy leading others, you don't invest in yourself, you're not going to see the warning signs. Now, your advice to leaders who face adversity, what is your advice to them? How should they go about conducting themselves in a time of trial or tribulation or adversity?
Be consistent. That is my message. Be consistent. And the reason why I say be consistent is because, it says in the Bible that this too shall pass. Right.
Yes.
And so when you think about that, right, regardless if you're a believer or not, but these are principles we're talking about here. If you can remain consistent when things are good, when things are bad, when things are rocky, when things don't make sense, when there's chaos, if you can remain consistent in your leadership, your communication, your effort, your presence, your emotion, if you can just remain consistent in that way, especially when adversity hits, adversity doesn't necessarily become adversity anymore because you're doing the exact same thing, the exact same way towards a different goal, right? Depending on whatever needs to get solved, because that's what entrepreneurship is. That's what leadership is, solving problems. But if you can remain consistent in your adversity, then one, you even being in a place of adversity lets you know that you're growing. But when you're consistent, you then are basically the hard things don't show themselves as hard because you're just being consistent. Like that's just who you are, right? You're just a consistent person. I think, again, I kind of flip adversity on its head. As I said earlier, where like adversity is like a good thing. Like adversity is a sign that you're headed in the right direction. Because if you think about anything that you might call successful, adversity had to hit, right? Like you don't get called tough without ever being in a fight. You don't ever get called good without being tested, right? And so it says in the Bible, take joy in every trial because we know that's the perfectioning of your faith. Well, again, we don't rise to the occasion. We fall to the level of our beliefs. I believe that in any trial that I face, this is okay. I'm getting something out of this. Something. Now, it may not be how I want it to be. It might be an area I don't want. Yes, like I'm still human. I have emotions. But in terms of my belief system, all right, God, well, clearly this is something. I have to take joy in this because this is perfecting my faith, right? And even for the non-believers, that's fine. But you understand, like, there's a reason. And so just remain consistent in whoever it is that you are. Do whatever you can do that adds to the mission, that pushes you towards the mission, goal, focus, whatever it is, in your leadership. But to me, that's the key to it all. Honestly, I feel like if as a leader, you should be hunting adversity. You should be hunting challenges because that's how you break through.
A wonderful, wonderful answer indeed. So role models, I mean, and I'm sure you are a role model to plenty of people, especially because you are in the ministry, your parents are in the ministry, people look up to you. Who is your favorite role model?
Oh, man. Well, I've mentioned my dad, and I have to say my dad. My dad is absolutely my role model for plenty of reasons. Even though and like the reason why I know he's my role model, and this is kind of maybe funny, is that he gets on my nerves. He gets on my nerves, but he's the only person that can really get on my nerves. Like so for example, I'm not a yeller. Like when I communicate, I don't ever need to yell. I have enough language. I have enough communication skills. I don't have to yell, but it's something about when he challenges me or whatever it is, when we get into argument, that just like that yelling spirit just comes over me and we just will go at it. But in the same breath, we'll go at it and then we'll just sit down and eat right after.
Of course.
And so just with the relationship that me and him have, just the way and the insight that I'm able to get from him in business, in life, in, just growing up as an adult, he's absolutely my role model, just from his story, from, growing up the way that he grew up with the obstacles and challenges that he faced, and for him to do all that he's done, he's a role model for me because it's like, well, I didn't have anything like that. And that's like, I saw what you did with your situation. So clearly it's very possible for me to take where I am with what he's done and take it to the next level. And he's truly been a support system for me in that, because the thing about it is too, right? As entrepreneurs, what we're doing is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like what we are doing, the common person that doesn't have guts, that doesn't have knowledge of what really goes into it, like you need a different level of crazy to you. Right. And so for me as a basketball player, as an entrepreneur with multiple businesses, like, so I say that because you really cherish the people that truly support you, because they understand how crazy it is, how big of an undertaking when you say I'm an entrepreneur, when you post on social media, hey, I opened a business, like you cherish those people that are really like, I'm rooting for you. Right. And like, I really support you. So and I could go on for days about why he's my role model, but for sure, he is absolutely my role model.
I love that. And I resonate with what you say. It does take a certain level of courage to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Because it is quite the ball game, I'll say. So now mentors.
Yes.
Have you ever had a mentor?
I have. I've had plenty of mentors. So I've had mentors. I like to say I have mentors for different areas of my life. So I have mentors for basketball. I've had multiple trainers that have poured into me, that really, changed the way in which I think, the way in which I play the game of basketball. But even outside of that, just mentors. I have mentors in business. One of my good friends, Armando Hung, he's also a life coach. So he's someone that, mentors me, just it being in the space of a coach. Cause when I started this, I was just like, I just want to help people. I don't even know what that looks like. I just want to help people. That's it. Right. And so he kind of helped me. He mentored me in a way of like, well, okay, you're a coach. So that means this is what this looks like. So, he was a huge mentor to me. Another mentor I have in this space, her name is Katora Rosado. She is also a life coach. She specializes with emotional fluency for success. She's also someone I consider a mentor. I have spiritual mentors. Yeah, mentorship is the key. Mentorship is the key. I am a firm believer in mentorship. I don't care if you got to pay for it. I don't care whatever. You need a mentor, because the thing is, it doesn't have to be so hard when you have a mentor. Like if you have a mentor who's already basically doing it at a level that's higher than you, it's just the truthful self-reflection of, okay, this person is just at a different level than me. Right. So there is that humility. I can still remain confident, but be humble and like, okay, clearly you figure something out because I want to get there. Right. Yeah. But then again, when you understand that and you approach them in that humble way, they're going to want to help you.
Yes.
Because it's all purpose filled. So mentorship is vital.
Absolutely. You are completely on point. And I would like to, just strengthen what you've said by just supporting that statement that you need more than one mentor at all times. Because you need multiple people that give you input in the different areas of your life. And we need, like you said, those spiritual mentors that guide us in prayer and in our spiritual walk. We need the life coaches. We need the trainers, whether it's a personal trainer or a sports trainer or anything of that kind. You and I and everybody else, we are multifaceted beings who are body, soul, and spirit, and we cannot just mentor one part of ourselves, and therefore we need people with different expertise. Now, I can't believe our time together has flown so quickly. We are up to the second last question, so I'm going to ask you, what is next for you?
Well, what's next for me is really building Craft Your Dream in a way that is efficient, in a way that's effective. So I shared earlier that, the mission of this thing is to fund dreams. That's something I'm really passionate about, because there are a lot of people that know what they want to do. They may even know how they're going to do it, but they just don't have the funds. And so, that's like the mission that I have for Craft Your Dream, to really be that bridge for the gap for people that need that assistance, that just they have an idea. It's great. But they don't have the business formation fees. They don't have the fees to take the test that they need or buy the equipment or whatever the case may be. So that, really locking in on that. But, in order for me to do that, I have to get better with just how I'm running and what I'm offering to people on the coaching side of showing people their how. So, I have a in-person experience coming up in December. December 17th, which I'm super excited about. It's my very first one. But just even the value in my approach to that, getting that better, so that way I can get people in the room to help them get clear on their goals and get clear on their how. So that way I can use that, the proceeds from that to help fund some dreams. So that's really what's next. Just trying to take everything that I'm doing and refining it.
Wonderful. I love that. Absolutely. You are growing from strength to strength. Do you have any words of wisdom for the audience that we can close off with? Anything you want to leave them with? Audience, we are going to make Trevon's contact details available. Now, upcoming events that he has that he's mentioned now. Please network with him, follow him, cheer him on this lovely journey. Any last words, Trevon?
I will just echo what I said earlier, is that you don't rise to the occasion, you will fall to the level of your beliefs. So if you are in a situation where you are in adversity and you're trying to figure out what's going on, check your beliefs, figure out what it is that you are believing that is keeping you stuck. And just really be honest with yourself about that. That's what I'll leave the people with, because I think everything that we talked about today had to do with belief system and having the answers within you.
Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for making the time for us, for imparting your knowledge and your wisdom to the Meticulous Moments audience. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very, very much. And we look forward to seeing, all the things that you are going to bring to the world and all the people that you will uplift. We are so proud of you. And I know God smiles at you because you're always speaking about him, giving him the glory and the honor that he deserves. And to the Meticulous Moments audience, thank you so much for joining us for yet another lovely session. We will make Trevon's details available. Follow him, and we'll see you in the next session. Goodbye.